What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome along to another video at DSR. I'm Matt, and today I'm taking out this Ducati Multistrada V2s. And to my left is my lovely assistant Zoe. She has taken out the Ducati Monster. If you are interested in watching either of these full run reviews drop, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get notified whenever they're released. But it's like 18 degrees, I'm absolutely sweating out in this jacket, so let's get on it. Oh, So this is Ducati's twin cylinder engine in the V2. It produces 113 brake horsepower with 98 Newton meters of torque. And the good thing with this bike is you can get it in an A2 compliant version as well. I am noticing as soon as I kind of start riding it that I am getting a fair amount of vibrations on my backside, and especially kind of the back of the bum where it's hitting the passenger seat. The engine is a V2, so it will have character, but you are going to have to put up with some vibrations. As I mentioned, this is the V2s model. This is the upgraded version, but there also is the V2, which is the standard model. Throughout this review, I will let you know the differences between the standard and the V2s. Let's start at the front of the bike and then work our way back. We do have the full LED works for the V2s. The V2 was only going to have your traditional lamp style headlights. Coming back from that, we do have this adjustable screen, one-handed adjustment, which I really like. Pinch in the middle and then just slide it up or down. V2s does have this 5-inch TFT screen. It is a bright sunny day today. Sometimes when the sun does hit it, there's a bit of glare and it's a little bit difficult to see. The screen does have a ambient mode, so during the day it will be white, and then during night time or tunnels etc it will go dark. Or you can go into the settings and then pick whichever one you want. Breaking the handlebars down, then on the left hand side we've got our full beam and our passing light. We've got our hazard lights. You've then got your mode button on the left hand side, which is going to push and hold on the right of it to then enter into the mode setting, push it up and down, select which mode you want, and then you can push back. I'll go through what modes this bike does have later on. Coming in next to the mode button is the cruise control button. That is only for the V2s unless you pay for it in the V2. We've also got electronic suspension with the V2s. Once again, V2, you're not going to get electronics, you are going to get your standard suspension. Our indicators and our horn. Right hand side we have got a heated grip button, kill switch, start switch, and then the handlebar lock button, because this is a keyless entry motorcycle. We do have a quick shifter up and down for the V2s. Sadly, once again, V2, no quick shifter. It is an optional add-on, coming in at around £225 I believe. Let's have a look at some of the other electronics on this bike then. As I did say, there are some rider modes. Those rider modes are going to be Sport, Touring, Urban and Enduro. And on the screen, when you flick between the two, it tells you the parameters of what they are covering. So engine high, DTC4, so traction control, ABS 2, preload 10, quick shifter up and down activated. And then you can go between the like I say, Sport, Touring, Urban or Enduro, and you'll see those parameters change. So if I go onto Sport and it says preload 10, the suspension, you feel at the rear kind of raise up slightly. And then if you go into Urban, it drops down to the lowest position. So if you are a shorter rider, actually putting it into Urban will help out with getting maximum contact with your feet to the floor. This bike does come with cornering ABS as well, so it's another nice thing to see. We've got self-cancelling indicators, so go on the days of you leaving them on and people think you're turning right all the time. And then lastly, we've got hill hold assist, which a bike that's designed for touring, when you've got luggage, when you've got a passenger on the back, controlling the bike on the incline of a hill can be quite difficult sometimes at a stop start. So having hill hold control, it just takes another thing for you to worry about away. Looking at the prices then of the V2 and the V2s, the V2 is going to set you back £12,995, when the V2s is going to set you back £15,400. The price of £15,400 for the V2s is going to be the Ducati Red. As you can tell, I am on the grey. That's going to be a little bit more expensive, coming in at around £15,600. I've mentioned probably most of the biggest differences, but quickly, the difference for the price range: LEDs, TFT screen, quick shifter, cruise control. To me, those are the 4 biggest differences, and you're going to be paying about 2.5 grand extra for them. So you need to decide if they're worth it for you. Me personally, yes, it is worth that extra pennies. Riding style and ergonomics of this bike: I'm 6'1", 115 kilos. In top half, I'm very upright, and the handlebars are a nice comfortable position from my chest. Bottom half, my bum feels actually is quite low in the seat, and my knees, there is quite a strong triangle between my hip, my knees and the pegs. The seat height for the both V2 and V2s standard 830mm. You can get a higher seat for 850mm. That's something potentially I'd have to look at if I was going to get this bike, just to raise me up a little bit and give my knees a little bit of respite from that pressure. You can get a lower option of 810mm, but if you go for the V2s with the electronic suspension, you can get the lower seat with a lowering suspension kit, and that would drop it to 790mm, and that is pretty low. It's definitely something that Zoe would appreciate, having a seat height of 790. She's 5'5", and it's always a concern for her sitting on a big bike like this that's designed for a little bit of touring, maybe a bit of off-road. Seat heights tend to be quite high, so having something of 790 would actually be spot on for her. I find with the quick shifter, if you're kind of like this where you're just gently accelerating, it blips through fine, but if you are hard on the throttle and then you shift, there is that, you can feel the delay, there's a bit of a lag shifting between gears. I believe the fuel tank was 19 or 20 litres, so nice and big, and get plenty of miles for your touring out of that. And then from there, I always like to go into the weight of the bike. So the weight of the V2 is 222 kilos, fully fueled, good to go. The V2s with the electronic suspension, a little bit heavier at 225 kilos. I've managed to pull over. Let's do a quick walk around, show you some of the bits on the Ducati, and do a little quick sound test of this Multistrada V2s. As I mentioned, LED headlight, they look really nice inside there. We've got 48mm upside down forks for the front. The brakes are nice and progressive. We do have Brembos all round, and at the front we've got the 4-piston pot with the twin 320mm discs. At the rear we've got a 2-pot Brembo caliper with a 265mm rear disc. I actually quite like the rear brake light, nice and kind of nicely designed at the back there. Another thing with that rear brake light is you do have emergency stop, so it will pulse the rear brake if you do slam on the brakes. The rider's seat is nice and wide at the rear and then skinnier at the centre of the tank, so it is going to help for the shorter riders to be able to get their legs down to the ground. And we do have a fairly large passenger seat at the rear as well. Sound testing of the Multistrada V2s for 2023. I think the Multistrada V2s does look pretty good, but let's get back on the road and I'll give you my final thoughts and opinions. For the Sherlocks amongst you, you may realise this is not the same bike. When I got back the other day, started checking the footage, I realised the last clip had absolutely zero audio, so you didn't get to hear my final thoughts and opinions on the Multistrada V2s, so I thought I'd cover it off now. I felt the brakes and the suspension on the V2s were really good. Obviously with the V2s there is the electronic suspension. I am a larger lad, 115 kilos. I tend to find a lot of stock suspension that isn't electronic does sometimes struggle with my weight, and it's either too firm or too soft. But the electronic suspension was spot on for the day. For me, there's two main areas that this bike kind of falls short. The first one being the riding position. The top half is very comfortable, it's very relaxed. The handlebars are a good position away from my top half. The problem for me comes the bottom half, between my bum, my knees and the pegs. I find it just too tight. I personally would need something to help sort that out if I was going to buy this bike, and that's where I probably would look at a taller seat. And lastly, I did say it throughout the video, is the vibrations that you get through the seat. Obviously the V2 engine is shared between the Multistrada, the Hypermotard, the Monster. When I spoke to Zoe about the vibrations, she also found the same problem. So for me, it's the engine that's causing those vibrations, not necessarily that specific bike, like the Multistrada setup of it. I did enjoy the ride, but the vibrations for me, if I was doing a long distance touring ride, would kind of spoil the fun for me. But everybody is different. Just because I've said it doesn't mean that every person's going to feel it or that they're going to worry about it. So take what I say with a pinch of salt, just like everything that you see on YouTube and media in general. Get yourself booked in on a demo ride. If you are in the west of the country, please do head over to Riders of Bridgewater. Like I say, they've got a fantastic selection of demo bikes for Ducati and Harleys. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you like it. Obviously subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more reviews coming out weekly. And there's nothing else to say apart from until the next one, ride safe.